to get on camera on that one.
Heated conversation. Pastor, the professor, real talk, real action, real righteous. So we're trying to grapple with the tension of being open and honest about how we feel about sexual orientation. And we believe that people have the privilege to disagree with that orientation. I don't think that we need to psychoanalyze whether it is nature or nurture, but if somebody objects to that as a practice, they have that right to. Over the break, there was some talk about this whole notion of the theology behind it, to which I would just invite anybody to Abyssinian Missionary Baptist Church on a Wednesday night where we can talk this thing out in detail. In fact, last night I did some stuff on the Bible, society, sexuality, and spirituality. So I feel free to talk to a bunch of y'all about that. But I was asked if I would invite a openly gay pastor to preach at Abyssinian Missionary Baptist Church. To which I asked, I don't know what openly gay meant because I don't screen openly heterosexual people before they come to the pulpit either. So the reality is I use my gift of discernment irrespective of sexual orientation when it comes to inviting people to those particular type of platforms. However, let's leave it at this. Let's bring it back to this. Do we think that it is appropriate to restrict the freedoms of people based upon their sexual orientation? And I think the problem that we have with Jason Collins, again, this is what we wrote about in the article, is that he deconstructs our notions of black masculinity because he doesn't fit the stereotype that has been projected and paraded around us.
Interesting enough, and this is so gonna be terrible, and y'all, I've been seeing texts now, so go ahead and Facebook me and message me if you're offended. But
he like it. He wants to say something.
In his interview, I wasn't shocked once I heard his talk and his mannerisms. Because we've been conditioning what a mannerism to a man.
So you think he
what I'm saying? Yeah. Like once, because
your gaydar went up.
See, that's him, not me. But when they said when he did the interview the other day on he's been all over everywhere, CNN everywhere. But I particularly watched him on halftime of the Grizzlies game the other night, and his mannerisms, I wasn't shocked at all. I had never heard him talk much because I haven't really paid any attention to him since Stanford, since college. So I hadn't seen it. He hadn't been on no interviews, courtside, inside NBA. I hadn't really paid no attention. I wasn't shocked at all. In fact, it seemed like normally some of his ways, they'll say, well, certain ways, the caricatures of a man are you'll have, maybe a deep voice, you'll have certain male mannerisms. Yeah. And then if you don't, they say you're effeminate, you have effeminate ways, right? He had some of those, some of the soft-spokenness, some of the things that he was saying, things that it's hard to explain. I couldn't even deconstruct it because it's almost an internal code that males kind of pick up on. I wasn't shocked at all. But you said openly, what is openly, Coach? And the thing about it is, I think once you open your mouth and profess this, then you become open, right? Your sexuality has become open. Jason Collins and in essence, when Chris Broussard goes back and says he's a Christian, and he gets on ESPN and he says outside the lines and says that this is not this doesn't match up with his Christianity. Right, and then in the Sports Illustrated article, Collins mentions that he is a Christian, right? He starts it off, I'm a black man, I am an NBA player, and I am gay. And I'm just wondering, it seems like when you become open, I know somebody on my Facebook page had mentioned that heterosexual males are always openly heterosexual when you got a wedding ring on your finger, right? Or when you say, that makes you open, or you're always talking about your wife, you're openly heterosexual. But my thing about it is we go back around, Robin, again to where we were. I don't understand the movement. I understand the movement, what you're talking about, Coach, as far as to be able to marry one another. I understand that movement. But I'm not so sure I even know what Jason Collins' motives are. I guess it's not a motive, but particularly if he's just got picked up, he's gonna be in the sports arena at least for another year. I'm just wondering
I don't know why people making such a big deal of it, because I didn't even see it. I didn't even flock to the TV to see his interview.
It's just been everywhere.
I saw the morning show, and the first thing on every morning show is Jason Collins announces that he's gay, and he's a black athlete. They're blowing that up.
And I think
why? So what?
Well, he got a
Like,
twin brother,
It's
and
gonna
his
be a
twin
lot of
brother,
shit.
his twin brother stated he didn't never know. He never
Right,
knew.
up to about a year ago. Yeah.
No, he said he never. He just found this out when he came out. With it.
He talking about a year ago. He talking about a year. I read that. He talking about a
Because
year
he
ago.
came out to his aunt first.
Right, and his girlfriend,
His ex-fiance.
his ex-fiance.
Yeah.
said she
and
had
this is a
years.
guy that was dating women.
Yeah.
You know,
Which speaks to, see, even to know that we have a culture that promotes such.
And if that's being open, I think now we get to it. And if you have to now, if you're not liking women, and you seem like you have to do that to maintain your place in the NBA. Particularly years ago, I understand why he hid it maybe then because he didn't want to be ostracized, and that was his livelihood. Now, if you're doing something that you don't want to have to do, first of all, anybody that's in a professional arena, sometimes you do have to wear the mask like Paul Dunbar. We wear the mask. You have to wear that mask. But if you were dating women and you didn't want to do that, and you were gay, I could see how that could be problematic internally.
And
for you.
there's no way on God's green earth that Jason Collins played in the NBA for 12 years.
And nobody knew he wasn't gay.
And nobody
Yes.
in the NBA knew he wasn't gay. I mean, they knew he was gay.
Even if it's
They knew it. They know what these athletes
His aunt
are
told him,
doing
his brother
now.
probably knew, just didn't want to accept it. His aunt said, I've been knowing that.
And some of his teammates
But
knew.
what would you
Yeah,
tell?
they knew he
I'm
was
gonna ask the
gay.
pastor this. What would you tell your son when he said, if he came and say, Dad, is it okay for me to date a boy at school? What would you say?
I would try to explain to him my understanding of sexuality and attraction. I would ask him questions like, "Are you really attracted to another boy?" What is, and part of the reason I got to ask that, see, our xenophobia, this fear of what we don't know, is making us demonize people and things that we just don't know nothing about. I would have to ask him because I don't have a clue what it's like to be attracted to another man like that. So before I would even try to theorize it or fix it, whatever the hell that's supposed
Sounds
to be.
good.
Sounds
good.
But I live what I preach.
Sounds good.
Yeah, but I live what I
Sounds good,
preach.
so you say.
Well,
Sounds good.
Show somebody.
I know at 4 years old.
Get somebody
I
show
know,
me different.
I know I do not want to deal with
That's
this
you. I ain't saying I want to
situation
deal with it.
my
Did
son
you ask me if I
because
wanted to deal
I
with
don't
that?
know how. He said, "What would you say?"
Right. He can ask me if I want to deal
I'm not
with
going
it.
to come to my son with this idea. I'm not getting into professorial mode. I'm Professor Joyner. Let's sit down, Caden, and talk about this.
No.
Well, first of all, no, because like you just said, no one knows. First of all, and it might not be genetic because you got identical twins and one straight and one gay. I'm saying that's something that if you don't know what it's like to be attracted to a male, no one even knows how to combat. That's what people are scared of. Everybody's not demonizing though.
No, I didn't say
Demonizing mean
everybody.
you did say demonize.
I didn't say everybody was demonizing.
Demonizing mean you're making.
But that don't mean everybody's doing it.
So everybody's demonizing. Everybody's confused.
No, not
don't nobody
everybody.
know how to address this.
Right, well,
They don't know how to address this.
if more people were honest and admitted that,
That's the
then I think
thing.
we'd be better. But most people are not admitting that.
Shit, I think.
So I think that you think that everybody thinks like you, and they don't. Just because you're not
people that
demonized.
I've come to contact with, my department, my fine arts humanities, all of us have talked about it. I wonder we don't know what to even think about it.
I know. That ain't what I hear in the barbershop.
JJ, that would be a hard one.
Yeah,
Thank
no
you.
doubt about it.
Thank you, sir.
Isn't that what I said?
I don't care if it's a son, a daughter,
Yeah.
brother,
you know,
sister.
you have to deal with that issue. That's a hard issue.
Yeah, no doubt.
And you know what? What Jason Collins did is really what I said. He had someone in the sports world, particularly a male, had to be a poster child for that movement. You have for us to deny that it's not a movement going on with that group of people, there is. And he's the poster child that's driving this conversation right here.
Right.
You know, and so now maybe people feel a little more comfortable talking to each other about it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Maybe somebody feels a little bit more comfortable by opening up. I don't know. My thing is, when I recruit somebody, I'm not asking them about their sexuality. Period. You know what I'm saying? I'm concerned about, from a collegiate standpoint, what they can do academically and what they can do athletically, and will they represent the institution that I'm working for to the fullest.
And from a pastoral perspective, I don't use my theology to discriminate and oppress other people. So I just don't. I say this all the time. Oftentimes, as a pastor, it's some stuff I don't know, and it baffles me how theologians and pastors and preachers and even professors can act like we really know everything. No, we don't. And we may be good in our particular area, right? But even then, our expertise is limited to our experience. So we don't never know anything. So some stuff, it is just hard. And the reality is, most people, most lay people, most people who are pastors, most people who are just, common people, everyday working people, the conversations that they are having are not this sensitive. When people are other and people are different, people are demonized by people. People are treated like they're less than human and talked about in language that is demeaning and belittling. And if we think that every conversation is as palatable as the conversation we're having now, then we're deceiving ourselves.
But if they're doing that, Boyce Watkins said something. But you know what? So if you're demonizing me and not in my face and not around my people, that's fine. That's the thing. That's the one great thing about America. If you're with a group of heterosexual males and they're out here demonizing, using fag, queer, and all that in their little circle, and there's not someone who's homosexual and offended by it, you have that freedom to do that. Yeah. But like a friend of mine was saying, the question is, what is really, everybody got to have some type of moral compass and standard. Not saying being gay is immoral, but I don't have to like everything. Okay? People don't have to like gay marriage. They don't have to like the fact that that some people are heaping their sexuality upon the public. I don't care. That's really why Don't Ask, Don't Tell worked, I guess, well for the most part for so long, because it's not really necessary. If you're not in my bedroom, it doesn't matter. So I think when you really become demonized is when it starts to actualize it. That demonization is actualized or personified in some type of activity in real society. But as long as they're doing that, they little cubby holes, whatever, I don't care.
Yeah, but I don't think everybody
don't care at all.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
I coached women basketball for 8 years, and I experienced both hetero and homo, or gay, lesbian, whatever they want to be classified as. I don't know. And I really commend the student athletes that I had the opportunity to work with for those 8 years, because they were able to, for the most part, put aside whatever sexuality that person had, go out on the court and work together as a group to accomplish a goal. And over the 8 years, I can remember 2 instances where I had one of the student athletes come to me and say, "Look, coach, when I take a shower, she looking at me, this ain't cool." But for the most part, what I observed over those 8 years, they found a way to make it work. They found a way to make it work, and they respected each other for who they were. And so, I'm trying to wrap my mind around, okay, now is this going to be in men's sports? And how will men deal? I don't think men deal with things the same way women deal with. That's going to be a problem, And I guess that's the challenge for the next decade, the next generation.
Should a homosexual player be allowed? And this is petty, but seriously, just like you just mentioned it, if a person comes out and says they're homosexual, should they be allowed to really be in the same locker room with other nude males?
That's a legit question.
Because that's almost a violation, isn't it?
Yes. Because the purpose of not
women
having,
have had private showers for years.
Yeah, maybe men need that.
right.
Yeah, they need that.
Which may be.
And I guess they do in pro arenas, right?
Yeah, because the purpose of not having co-ed locker rooms was so that the people would not be sexually objectified by people who they assumed would be sexually attracted to them. But come on, Coach McKinney, you were gonna say something?
No, I'm just gonna Coach. He cut right into it. It just had to be some type of modification made if there's going to be male gay athletes mixed in with what we'll call heterosexual athletes.
Maybe they'll have to come out
because if you don't. And he said the girl dealt with it, but now you dealing, as the generations go by, you dealing with less immature kids that don't have the mental
fortitude
or rationale to deal with something like that. So
they're dealing with it. It's gay. It's gay high school student athletes, male and female.
But I'm telling you, they're not dealing with it.
I'm telling you, athletes, and now we know it's gay pro.
But I'm telling you, they're not dealing with it. I'm telling you, these high school kids.
Are they ignoring it, you think?
No,
You say they're not dealing with it.
No,
right?
They're not dealing with it. They like, especially we talking about boys now. Girls act different. But boys, if they know it's a gay boy trying to play a sport, they will not allow this boy on the team. if they picking their own, like let's say like they're playing regular pickup game, they know a guy gay or whatever, they will play odd numbers before they pick this guy up to play in high school. You know, then these high school boys going to somebody's college.
Be cold. They gonna get him.
See, and then that's the other thing. And then, Coach, I want to get your thoughts on this too, because you said something about this earlier, though. I think ultimately, and I look at this the same way we look at genres like hip hop. People ask, you know, when I be teaching hip hop class, do you think hip hop would ever affirm and accept a same gender loving rapper? And I said, if he cold enough, or if she cold enough, yeah. Right? So, and I think the same thing, don't you think the same thing could be true in terms of basketball? And I think you alluded to this a little bit earlier, because ultimately, because you said it's about the product you put out there on the floor. So if you go out there and get some buckets,
they gonna pick you.
You know what I'm saying?
I'm trying to see why is this so surprising. We just seen this over the last 6 years watching the game. If you can remember back during the game when Malik,
he don't watch BET shows, but go ahead.
Yes, he did. The big football player who was the guy who came from the league. I mean, you see an older mom. I mean, a young mom who had a baby at a young age. So Malik and his mom are somewhat, you know, partying together. Now she dating people that were probably, you know, Rick Fox, and you got gays and that. Everything you seeing on TV has become reality, and so it's not shocking to me.
And that's art.
That's the black community become Europeanized. That's all we have become.
Now hold up, Coach.
That's it.
Now we got to. Now what that means is, now what's happening here, what has happened here, and the white man will come get us now. But hopefully we'll be back on the yard. But what has happened here is, now I've heard that, and I want to address that. Homosexuality is nothing new. Like, people always go, all these smart audience want to say, well, the Greeks, right? They take it to Greek, right? And they go to philosophers, and this is nothing, you know, this is no slandering of them, but they all pretty much, they would only have younger boys. Actually, they were pedophiles more so than homosexual. But they would make sure that they would have, you know, their schools would be young kids. And people always think this is something, a European thing. I don't want to put that label as if homosexuality is a Eurocentric thing.
No. I'm talking about all the things we saw in the game. I'm not talking about being gay. I'm talking about all the stuff that you saw. The storylines. The storylines, the dynamics. You know.
Oh, you mean it's mirroring Eurocentric? Like that comedy drama is mirroring a Eurocentric. Okay.
Thank you for that clarification. I got you.
So if I wasn't clear on that, let me be clear. That's what I'm talking about.
Okay. So let me ask the pastor this. I know we got to go. Is this the new Sodom? Is this the new Sodom and Gomorrah?
Well, it depends on how somebody interprets Sodom and Gomorrah. And so if anybody goes back and read Genesis chapter 19, consider that from a military perspective. What do you do when people in your neighborhood who you don't know and who don't know you slide into your neighborhood, and you know your neighborhood is under heavy surveillance because people been taking over neighborhoods, right? Neighborhoods under martial law. And then somebody who ain't even from there, who's a foreigner, slides two people in, whether they're angels or whatever, that we don't know. What you gonna do? You gonna go check them out, ain't you? See, maybe if we understood, I think this. I think our tension and struggle around where we stand in our society, I don't care if it's theologically, politically, sociologically, or otherwise, stems from ignorance and greed. So we're ignorant about certain stuff, and then we greedy as hell. So we develop these lopsided mores and social norms, and just like, so when you say the Sodom and Gomorrah, the social norm is that's the quintessential place for homosexuality. But there are several interpretive lenses to look at the same text and say, no, that's a military term. The term no, see, but we're ignorant of that. The term no in the Hebrew doesn't always equate to sexuality. And that original Hebrew term in that text that you're talking about is a military term. They went to seek to know who is these niggas that you brought into our hood because we don't know them and niggas been trying to get us.
They didn't have sex with the angels? That's been a whole huge myth.
And then you know what we missing that? Which I'm trying to make sure that we're sensitive to in this conversation, which we always try to be sensitive to on the pastor and the professor. Why don't we say anything about Lot's daughters that he tried to offer up? He said, well, don't worry about messing with them. Then mess with the daughters. Now, if these people are homosexual, why would they even be appealed by daughters? Why would he even make that appeal? He know them, so if he know they're homosexual, then why would he ask them for the daughters? But we don't even look at that because our culture is so fixated on male sexuality that we'll allow women and other people to be oppressed and dehumanized, and we won't even say nothing about it.
And let me ask you this: in that time didn't they use?
Y'all gonna have to meet me at Bible study, man.
Didn't they use? I'm just asking though. Didn't they use young girls as comforters? You know, so to speak.
G brought up this notion too that was a Greek philosophy, kind of so the New Testament, but there was other ancient African Hebrew communities that used young men in the same way. It was a rites of passage. That you would be the boy's slave, even in some of the Middle Eastern countries.
Similar to how this happened, and they showed it on Sopranos, but you know, this is definitely an old, you know, everyone knows this from the hood. You hear these stories all the time. You know, that's just go to jail. That homosexuality is X'd out. I remember when Tony Soprano was an episode, I laughed because I've heard this before from black men that have tried to, you know, use it's like that don't count. Like somebody was like, well, you know, so and so. These that they call somebody a fag, and Tony Soprano was like, well, we don't want to kill him just because he's a fag, right? And he was like, well, man, everybody did their time in the Bing, and you know. He said, "Well, yeah, but that's different.
Yeah,
the one who getting it opposed to the one who's receiving." Now, with that said, I know we got to wrap up. But with that said, we
gotta do a part 2.
When you mention this, and I want to end on this. I think what has to happen is maybe. I think we're scared of, you know, xenophobia being, you know, fear of the unknown. But the same thing about it, if we look at, I think we look at homosexuality not only as being a deviant sexual behavior, but as if it's unnatural. Yeah. And I'm thinking maybe we should think that going around unmarried, sleeping with a whole lot of women, any sex before marriage, maybe that's unnatural as well, because you mentioned Sodom and Gomorrah. That's always like the metaphor for hell in a handbasket. Yeah, and I think homosexuality has existed since the beginning of time. I don't think this is going to hurt us any worse. I think we're going to be just fine. I don't think gay marriage being legal in all 50 states, plus one to count Puerto Rico, the 51st area that's about to become a state. I don't think it's going to be the downfall of American humanity. I think if anything, we need to tighten up on our whole existence here as far as sexual, right? As far as all these STDs, all this unprotected sex, all of this just sex for, like you always mentioned, just for the sake of having sex, right? Maybe if we look at heterosexual activity like that, like we do homosexual, maybe we won't, for lack of a better term, demonize or castigate or subjugate these people to different type of or inequality.
And I just say that here goes my last comment. The Bible is a bad place to get some sex education. It's just a bad place to get your sexual education.
It's just going on in Africa, China,
sure it is.
European countries. I mean, it's just the norm. And I know America is.
What people coming out, or what do you mean?
Brave. I just want to know if this is going on in Ethiopia. What's going on?
A lot of those African nations
matter of fact, they kill. Yeah, I'm about to say they killed.
Now, European, it's much more accepted in places like France and England, but most European countries, Spain, Portugal, that type of thing. But a lot of these African nations, and what is it, John? About 27 countries. Somebody's gonna correct me, I'm sure, on Facebook. 27 different countries on that continent. A lot of those, particularly on the west coast of Africa, you got a lot of violent, like, you know, if you're against their social mores, you're gonna get killed. So that's why they might not come out. I'm sure this stuff happens. This is a human thing. Ain't got nothing to do with America.
So basically, you saying that those countries are for real about their daily walk, or what they believe in.
I mean, I don't. But and we're also talking about nations that persist in genocide and having royal families where everybody got all the money is top heavy. You know what I'm saying? So I don't even know if we can even use them as a.
Let me say something right quick. I feel like more richer countries are more sexually
free, liberated,
explorative. That's why we venture into different things. Okay, because like the first guy went to the moon. Well, hell, somebody wanted to go further than that. Well, somebody trying to build a ship to go farther than that.
Neil Armstrong, he was in the studio. He really go to the moon.
So these countries and us being, particularly U.S., we so sexually explorative that, I think that's why some of this, and I don't think, and that's a personal opinion, but I don't think that every person that's saying they're gay or homosexual is actually homosexual to be homosexual. I think that some of them are doing it just because it's so open. It's their particular set of group now that's cool and hip. So some of them, I think, is just really exploring themselves. You
What
know.
would you tell your son?
And that's it. What's up?
That's it.
And that's it. Look, perfect episode. Episode 9.
Thank you, Coach Anderson. Thank you, Coach Johnson. Thank you, Coach McKinney. We're gonna give it up for him. As always, we'll see you next week. Don't forget to hit us up on Facebook and Twitter. Meet me at ABC 3890 Millbrand. Real talk, real action, real righteous.
Righteous talk for real people. The Pastor Professor. Next week we'll see you.
That's what I want to know. Everybody. That's the $1 million
That's where it gets
question.
dicey. That's where it gets dicey.
Earl did that political correct thing.
Nah, man.
No, that's coaching.
No, that ain't no politically correct stuff. I wrestle with that stuff, and that's what I would have to say. Because of the God I serve.
This the upper echelon shit. Welcome to the walking through double fisted, I'm lifted on certain vicious. Everything is